Hey, this is Jackie from South Africa, and she's a friend of mine, and she's been growing dragon fruit for how long?
About 13 years.
13 years, and I've learned a lot from you, and you are a very talented grower. How many varieties do you grow?
At the moment, growing commercially about 32 varieties.
32. How many plants do you have?
Oh gosh, probably about 15,000.
Wow, 15,000?
Yeah, we've got 4 in a pole, so yeah,
Okay,
keep us busy.
So you probably have the most dragon fruit in South Africa.
No, not commercially.
Not
I wouldn't
commercially.
No.
Okay, so there's bigger farms than that.
We've got a bigger variety,
Okay.
but of the other varieties that I haven't grown commercially, there's substantially more than 30 odd.
So there's quite a bit of dragon fruit growing in South Africa.
It's new, well, not as new as here in the US.
Okay.
But it's encouraging. There are a lot of people that are very excited. A lot of farmers are nervous to grow commercially. There are a lot of also hobbyists.
So there's risks involved commercial growing, isn't
Well,
there?
you don't know. Yeah, you know, you've got to find out, is it going to work? You don't know what pathogens or insects are going to come along.
Yeah, every year you kind of have a different challenge, it seems like.
Every year.
Well, you came all the way to California, and we've been, together the last 3 or 4 days here, and you've seen some of the greatest growers, in my opinion, in California, if not the world. So let's go through them. First, you went to Wallace Ranch, and you worked with Nava, correct?
Correct.
And how was that experience? Can you summarize what you learned from Nava?
Nava is, I would say, probably the most dynamic marketer. She's a great grower. She's highly energetic.
She has a passion for dragon fruit.
Incredible passion. I love the fact she's looking at value added. She's got a great beer. She's
the Jacked Up Brewing IPA you got to try.
Beautiful color, great taste.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all about getting the name out there, you know. And when you put out a good product like that, it just helps dragon fruit. But I think she's a terrific marketer.
So that was the first person, and you learned a bit of marketing strategies from her farm. Then you spent a whole extra day with Gray Martin, and I got to spend a day too. And that was amazing for me, but you had a whole extra day one-on-one with Gray doing work on his farm.
Yeah,
Can you summarize that experience?
That was a lot of work.
So he put you to work.
He did, but it was, you know, I arrived right in the middle of his biggest flush.
Oh yeah, he had a lot of fruit.
And when I'm in the middle of a flush, I'm not as graceful as Gray was. For him to take and be willing to let me tag along, I really appreciate it. So I was happy to roll up my sleeves and help. And it was an absolute pleasure. Gray is a farmer scientist to the absolute letter. It's an absolute pleasure to see somebody that is really interested in the genetics, and he's really interested in a proper product, in a proper variety.
And how to improve it, it seems like. He always wants to just put out the best fruit possible.
Yeah, and his fruit is good.
And he's growing it in full sun, no shade, correct?
Self-pollinating.
Self-pollinating. He's doing very little hand-pollinating, correct? There's different blocks, if I recall.
He doesn't pollinate at all.
No.
No. So he's a great. Yeah, he's really a great, and it was an absolute pleasure to spend time with him.
And I felt extremely honored, and I learned a lot from him, but can you describe one thing, your takeaway from him? I mean, there was a lot, but what was one thing that really kind of made you change your perception or strategy?
I think Gray's all about something else that somebody else mentioned, but he's all about the soil and the nutrition of the soil, and what it's going to have. If you give your plant the food and the correct food it needs, it's going to have the correct balance, and it's going to give you a fruit that is tastier, which is at the end of the day with dragon fruit, we need to find good tasting varieties. And I think you've got to start at the bottom to end up with a good product at the top. And Gray's knowledge of what to feed the plant is incredible.
And how to prune them. He had his pruned very differently than any other farm I've been to.
That was probably the biggest mind blow to me, is how he's able to, and that is the whole thing, is that he has a much less stems growing, and his production is good, and it's because of what he's feeding. But there's just little plant material there.
And then he also was strategizing about like the end of the season too, for how to fertilize at the end to get the
Correct.
plants to recover
Correct.
before dormancy, correct?
Because they are now tired.
Yes.
And that is something we forget. You know,
Yeah.
they are exhausted. They've been working for a good couple of months. You've got to give them some
And then
food.
it's going to be harder for them because it's going to
Yeah.
be colder here
Yeah.
and wetter.
Yeah, and I think that's why he's got such good health.
Yes.
Gray has an intimate knowledge. He really has a true love affair with this plant, and I think he truly understands it.
I think he understands it better than anybody else in the business
Yeah, I
or
think
the
so.
industry or hobby, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, it's his passion, definite
Yeah.
passion.
Did you get to go to other farms or just one of? Because he has three, right?
No, I went to two of them, yes.
So two.
Yeah.
And were they all pretty much the same in your experience, or were there some differences?
Very similar. Growth was all similar. No, I would say they're pretty similar.
Pretty similar.
Yeah.
So he does that consistently.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. He's got the same sort of. I know that he, at times, he will like to try something. He gets a little niggle and he thinks, let's try something new. And that's also so nice because he's hit the sweet spot, I think, with it. But he doesn't stop challenging himself and trying to see whether there's something else out there. And I think that's tremendous because we need people that are prepared to take even a financial knock, spend more time in an area that's not going to be necessarily economically viable for them, just for the better of everybody else at the end of the day. So, yeah, he's a real pioneer.
Yes, that's well said. He's a pioneer and he's a true gentleman. He's very, very kind. And that was an amazing experience that we got to partake in. So I enjoyed that. That was very fun. And then we also went to Kevin at Dragon Delights, which was another amazing.
Different and such a pleasure.
Very different strategy.
Yeah.
They're using 50% shade cloth, but they rolled it up.
Yes.
Right, as you could see in the video, you see it right here. And they roll it up until springtime, correct?
I love, and that was a huge learn for me too. I've always believed that dragon fruit is very sensitive, that you can do something to it and within 24 hours you can see what it thinks about what you've just done.
How it responds.
But what Kevin has done, and it was really a mind blow, is that he will put his shade cloth over certain areas, over the same varieties, and it will spontaneously react to that shade and it may flower or fruit, and he will move that according to the production that he's requiring.
Yes, I thought that was brilliant. So he is
Fascinating.
waving his American Beauties, correct? I think it was American Beauty and Sugar Dragon.
Yes.
So the ones that were in shade were going to flower a little later, delaying
Correct.
them, versus the ones in full sun.
And that I think is a huge break.
And he was using that
breakthrough.
for pollen supply too, right?
Yes.
And then he had that, they dehydrate their dragon fruit.
Yes.
Which I thought was great. And then you do that as well.
I do, yes.
And you said that, could you share what you told about how you over dried them and the results?
Yeah, I made a mistake. I forgot the machine and I left it on and it dried to a crisp. Literally, it was
Like
not
crispy,
pliable.
hard?
It was
So you couldn't bend
breakable. No, you couldn't bend it. It snapped. And it was just so much nicer than the pliable one. And it was a mistake and it just, was better. I walked around with a big jar of it for a month, asking everybody I saw to taste them. And every single person told me that they would buy that instead of a crisp.
So if you dehydrate your dragon, over dehydrate them, try it out yourself and see if it's as good as...
Cut it a bit thinner.
And you had like random people try it, right? Just in your
Yes,
community.
I must have had 300 or 400 people taste it.
Really?
Yeah.
And they all preferred it?
There was one guy that didn't like it, but I had to really coax him to taste it. And he said, no, I didn't like it.
Well, you can't please everybody. We learned that.
No, it's good.
So yeah, he does that, Kevin. He also, I love how he brings in the community, right?
Yes,
he
and
does a
that
component that other farms don't.
Yeah, so it's great if we want to be able to sell our fruit, we need to let the public know what the fruit looks like. And I think his interaction with people is first class. I think they're pollinating for him.
Yeah, he has pollination, what do they call it?
I call it a pollination
party. He had a different term for it. A night tour or something.
A treasure touring? Or
Something like that.
Yeah.
But he has people come at night, they get a headlight,
Yes.
and they pollinate the flowers with them. He describes the background of the plants, teaches them a bit, and then they have free tastings of dragon fruit as well.
Lovely. And I mean, that people get to experience us dragon fruit growers know.
Yeah.
When you go into the dragon fruit vineyard at night, that fragrance, I kind of feel like a bee.
Yes.
I understand it. Kind of puts you in a little bit
the
of hype.
smell is amazing.
It's beautiful.
It's very calming too for me.
And
at
I
least.
think, and people remember that experience. I had some people back home also come to see me at night, and we did some pollinating, and they said exactly that to me. They felt exhilarated by the fragrance, and they felt they were playing a role in sort of the future of a plant and about the fruit. So and I think that's what's happening. People going to Kevin are becoming part of the future of dragon fruit, and they will go home, they'll wait for them to come in the shelves, and it'll help for the marketing.
Or
of the
sometimes
fruit.
they buy the plants there or start to
Yes,
grow their own, right?
yeah,
It really motivates
yeah.
them. Being hands-on is really a different experience than just buying it at the store.
Yes, and it's really nice. Kevin he's not new, but he's such an up-and-down guy.
And the way he speaks, like he never acts like he knows it all.
Yeah,
He's the first to tell you, I made a mistake here, I made a mistake
He'll say,
here.
I don't know.
Yeah, I really enjoy it.
Wonderful. I like
I'm hoping I can tour his farm and learn from him next
Yes,
season.
yeah.
I'd like to do
so
that.
that was a pleasure. I really enjoyed that.
I really like their philosophy of the business with the people coming. That's
Yes,
very unique
yeah.
compared to other farms.
And he's got a great supporting system. I really like his support.
Oh, his trellising system is amazing,
Yeah,
yes.
I love that.
Yes,
That's nice.
I do like that as well, but it's expensive, so he can't even
Yeah.
afford to do it
And
now.
it looks good.
It does
Yeah,
look good, and it
yeah.
lasts a long time.
Yeah.
So then, let's see, after Dragon Delights and Ramona, we went to Oceanside Dragon Fruit, but we didn't get to see them, but we saw the
Unfortunately
view, stunning
Wow.
view.
I'd love to have gone down and had to stood on the edge, but unfortunately, he wasn't available.
Yeah, it
so-
just didn't work out, and then
Yeah.
we missed Moore Park because we were late, but then we went to In-N-Out, which was delicious. Hopefully you
was
see the
nice,
picture
a
here,
bit
it was
of
great. And her first In-N-Out double-double.
It was good. Very
Not
good.
bad, not bad.
Yeah.
And then we went to Mr. Valdivia's home, and Edgar was a gracious host. And describe, what did you think of that
The
experience?
Don. Edgar is just synonymous, obviously we all know, with dragon fruit. Such a gentleman. It was nice to hear that he lived in South Africa for 15 years, something I didn't know. He pulled out a book, which he keeps everybody that comes to see him. He keeps a list and.
Oh, his logbook, yes. And so he remembers everybody that's been there.
Well, it answered something for me, a question that I've had on my farm from day one.
And can you tell us that question that was
Yes.
answered?
So I bought 7 varieties from Australia when I first started, and when they finally started producing fruit, they were not what I thought they were. They weren't 7 varieties, they ended up being 23 varieties. And I contacted the owners and they said they couldn't understand that. Well, Edgar tells me that these people came to visit him and the dates line up, and he gave them cuttings, but he gave them a whole lot of seeds and seedlings.
So the Israeli breeding program comes from Edgar's plants, is what we
Correct.
learned.
And it explains why my fruit, I can't recognize it anywhere.
So pardon the interruption, but I wanted to clarify this part of the interview a little bit better. Now, Jackie was extremely excited to discover that Edgar Valdivia had shared not only cuttings with the Australian growers, her source, but also seeds as well. So I think that's going to explain a plant like this, which is called Jade Red, which is Australian, but it looks a lot like an Asunta. Look at the flower here, as you can see. So most likely, Jade Red is actually an Edgar Valdivia hybrid, not an Australian hybrid. And what I got really excited about is this photo right here. And you can see Leo Manuel and Edgar with the head person of the Israeli breeding program. Yosef Mizrahi, I believe is you pronounce his name. And so looking through all of the Israeli data, maybe some of their polyrhizas could be something like this old school Skeels. Or even more importantly, here's Hylocereus lemerii, which has been really hard to grow in Zone 9B. I've had to reroot it. But as you can see here, the Israeli research has photos. So most likely, most of the Israeli breeding program also stemmed from California rare fruit growers like Leo Manuel and Edgar Valdivia. So in short, this Diego Desert King variety, actually the DNA and genetics and sources for the parent plants most likely came from Edgar Valdivia and or Leo Manuel and the California rare fruit growers. So that's the part of the interview I wanted to clarify. So thank you for watching, and hopefully this clears it up.
So I'm really excited that I've got fruit that nobody else in the world has.
So as fate would have it, you have Edgar's plants from Israel in South Africa.
It's insane.
Right?
Well, from Australia, yeah.
From Australia, sorry. And so you can see, here's a few pictures of the fruit that she has. And do you want to describe any varieties of yours that really stand out of those seedlings?
There are a couple that are really good. I don't like to double name, so it is really important to me to try and see if I've got a variety that just simply that has a name somewhere out there.
If it's a no ID or mislabeled?
Yeah, I don't like the mislabel. I prefer to keep it what it is.
Yes.
I've got something that it was actually the very first fruit that I noticed was a different fruit to what I'd bought. It was a magenta flesh, and it was up in a citrus tree that had popped, and it wasn't one that I hadn't bought a magenta fleshed fruit from Australia. I named it after one of my workers that has been with me the longest, and his name is Alex. And I still believe, I've even tasted a lot of your fruit, and Gray's fruit. I know we all
like our own fruit.
We all like our own.
Yeah, but they're all good.
But I really believe that Alex's tops it.
So out of your farm, that one is kind of the cream that rises to the crop.
I think so.
What color is the flesh?
It's magenta.
It's magenta.
It's probably got a little bit of a thin skin, so maybe commercially perhaps not a good idea. I think it's, there are very few people that don't think it's one of the best they've tasted.
Wow.
It's got an unusual tray in that after it's been picked, the fruit skin ripens, sort of changes to a very red, but the bracts go yellow.
Oh wow!
So becomes very striking.
So it's a very pretty fruit as well on the exterior.
Yeah, very, very.
So pretty interior, pretty exterior.
Good
sweet.
texture. Yeah. It Brixes at about 19.
Does it have any acidity?
Yeah, it's
nice.
Perfectly balanced. I'm completely biased.
That sounds like a really good one then.
Yeah.
And you believe personally that came from Edgar's breeding program
I think
early
so.
on?
Yeah, it's not.
Do you remember what year that was in the log? Was it 04?
No, it was 207, I think, or 206,
okay.
207.
Yeah, I thought it was an even number, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Well, that experience with Edgar, you can see here, we got to tour not just his pitahayas, we got to tour his amazing collection of everything. He had, mangoes. He had, what was that fruit that tastes like a rose? A rose apple?
Rose apple,
that was delicious.
Tastes like fragrance. Yeah.
His mango was sweet. Some of that apple, his guavas. He had so many things.
Big selection. Mulberries, lovely. Yeah. Pomegranates, the white pomegranate.
Oh yeah, and then he had that tart one that made,
Yeah, I didn't like it.
That was very interesting.
But it's nice to have the diversity. It's exciting.
I had no idea that he had such a diverse collection of rare fruit.
Very, very nice. And you can see he's passionate about them too. He's very proud. So.
And he even gave us some seeds, so we're going to split them and see what happens. They're soon to 5 crossed with G1, if I recall.
That's right. Yeah.
And he had trays of those, so you can see he is going to be hybridizing for the rest of his life. He's going to be sharing seeds. He's probably shared thousands.
Oh, I think he does. He's a generous man. So that's lovely. So
and it was great. We spent a few hours with him. It was very memorable.
Yeah.
So what an amazing experience. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Well, I have to thank you. I don't think I could have had such a good time. I don't think I would ever found my way to Edgar.
Yeah.
3 hours from
here. Those freeways, it can be intense.
They are, driving on the other side of the road. So thanks to you. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you, because I think we really have a similar ideology, and we're very much the similar type of people when it comes to dragon fruit. We have the same passion.
Yeah.
So for us, I think it was just a once-in-a-lifetime trip, learning journey, and a great experience that we'll never forget.
It is unforgettable and greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Well, thank you for coming, and thanks for watching, and you guys have a great day. All right?
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.